Hi guys, Jamie from Perma Performance here. Today we're going to run through our top 3 lower body exercises that will hopefully improve your performance on the bike. This is part of the off-bike series in conjunction with Cyclists. So it's important to remember with some of our off-bike training tips and some of these exercises that they are just tools to improve certain key qualities that will hopefully transfer and help your cycling performance. A lot of the time, specifically in social media, when you look at exercise online to improve your cycling performance, we see a lot of exercise driven by something what we call visual similarity. So just because it looks like an exercise that might help cadence or performance on a bike, it doesn't necessarily mean it will transfer. So we want to pick some of those key qualities. So the lower body strength series is going to look at developing force and trying to produce force through the floor, which will hopefully transfer to the pedals. So that leads us into our 3 exercises. So first up is the trap bar deadlift. So we have it off a little bit of a raised block. So the purpose of that is to really simplify the skill. So by having it off a raised block, it means that we can maybe not be challenged too much from a mobility perspective. We can focus on really just driving some output, and so loading up the bar, and again really applying force through the floor, which again will hopefully overload us and give us a way to develop our maximal force production. Okay, so we have a setup here. We can see there's some risers, so it makes the bar a little bit closer, a bit higher up off the floor. So if I'm a little bit more restricted in mobility, it just gives me an easier position to get down to and grab the bar. Okay, so what we're really trying to develop here is force through the floor and really kind of get into a good position and drive the legs. So if I come down, set up, I'm gonna get my eyes fixed, get a good brace and some tension, and then push through the floor and lock it up, and then reset. So tension, push through the floor, lock it up, and then reset. Push through the floor and lock it up. So it's always good to think of an external cue where you're trying to push the floor away from you, stand up and lock it out, and finish the movement nice and tall. Cool, so one thing to sort of also think about when you're setting up for a deadlift is okay trying to kick the shoes off because you want a nice firm contact with the floor. It takes away any of that kind of unstable feeling that you might get with running shoes. Again, so with the setup in the middle of the bar, and again it enables that flexion through the knees and the hips. Come down to what's comfortable for you. Nice strong grip of the bar. And again, I always say set the eyes, take a deep breath, get the brace, and then you can either breathe out on the push-up and extend nice and tall. The second exercise is a counter movement jump, and then also some progressions into what we call plyometric training. So, jumps, hops, skips, bounds, they're all forms of plyometric training. And the point of that is to be able to produce force really quickly. Okay, so if you think about a counter movement jump, what we're trying to do is produce force in the shortest possible time. And that can help in terms of the neurological benefits, in terms of contraction and relaxation. And so that might help enable us to be able to sprint a little bit faster, to be able to break away from the pack and just have a little bit more power in the legs when required. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration. So to begin with, I kind of keep the hands on the hips because I'm trying to focus on lower body extension. So hands pinned to the hips, eyes forward, and I'm going to pull myself down rapidly into a squat position and then take off. And then I'm going to stick the landing almost like ready position. So basically manage the contact and get ready to jump again if I was to kind of go into cyclical jumps. So to show that again. Not too bad, not quite LeBron James, but what we can do to kind of progress that slightly is allow the arms to come into the movement. So this basically just adds a little bit more kind of eccentric force. So we have to overcome a bit more kind of that force that we're driving into the floor, deceleration, and then coming out of that bottom position. So usually you can jump up higher or a little bit higher with the arms in play. Good. Yeah, so essentially that's enable us to produce force really quickly. And again, it's giving you something that you're not getting on the bike. From a, like I said, neural development point of view, producing force really quickly, there's nothing really quite like what we call a plyometric exercise. So So what you could typically do, again, from a progression point of view, is to use this as like a rebound, where we develop something called a stretch shortening cycle. So essentially it's just, rapid contraction, using our tendons a little bit more. If you think about what we're doing on a bike, we're fixed on pedals, and so it's very muscular in terms of action. When this sort of stuff in terms of plyometrics, we're developing on that elasticity of the tendons, and that's just great in terms of just general overall strength, and also helps with stuff like injury prevention as well. So our third exercise was a reverse lunge or split squat variation. This is great to develop sort of single leg strength or unilateral strength. And again, from a mobility perspective as well, it's great for that staggered stance, and really simple and effective to employ within your training, as you don't need an awful lot of kit. So dumbbells are great, or kettlebells, or even holding sort of a dumbbell or kettlebell out in front of the body. So a reverse lunge, split squat is our third exercise. I think when I set up for like a reverse lunge or split squat, I always want to keep my feet like on train tracks, so directly underneath my hips, and then just take a pace backwards. Okay, so it's just nice that if I'm too wide, and as I step back, I'm probably going to lose a little bit of my balance. Likewise, if I'm on a tightrope, again, same thing. Be a little bit tough in terms of trying to regain balance. So good thing to think about is feet underneath your hips, and they're fixed on these kind of train tracks. So when we take a step back, okay, I'm nice and balanced. I want to load over my front leg. Okay, so again, eyes are important here. If I'm looking kind of just in front of my foot, I can kind of see the traction of my knee and my toe, and I want to sit my rib cage over my front leg. So the majority of weight is being driven up of that front leg, and I can stand up nice and tall. If I take too big a step back and I'm getting a little bit of a hip flexor stretch, a lot of my weight then is on the back leg. And I can probably feel that through a hip flexor stretch here. So you'll be able to almost feel that straight away, and that's probably a bit of a too big a step. And again, like my proportion of the, my weight balance and where I am based on my front leg versus back leg, it's much more on my back leg here, and it becomes a little bit like a push off the back leg, and again creates a little bit of instability. So good thing to think about is rib cage, stack it over front leg, look just in front of you again, just to kind of get yourself in a nice balanced position, and you can kind of see your surroundings. Look over the front leg, load over the hip, and then back up nice and tall. Again, as you finish, you just lock out, extend the hip, squeeze the glute, and then just repeat that movement. So when you sort of pick up the weights, just make sure you're comfortable when you've got the mobility to go all the way down and pick them up, and you're happy to pick up that weight from that position. So again, always think about a deadlift pickup or a squat sort of pickup. So flex the knees and the hips, come nice and low, and just try and get lots of tension, scoop down, and then pick up to the hips. Again, sometimes it's easier just to put the dumbbells on the bench, but again, usually it's not too much of a concern if you feel comfortable picking up the weights. When we set up for the lunge as well, when the weights are in the hand, so as I mentioned about the feet on the train tracks, we also want to have a really strong grip. The worst thing is when you step back and these are all over, a bit like pool noodles, it becomes very difficult to control. Okay, so I really want to have a strong grip, almost like pin the shoulders and lats solidly by the side of the body, and then that's a good place to start. So again, I'm looking over the front leg, keeping my rib cage over the front leg. I'm not extending. There's not loads of weight on the back leg. Almost think about an 80-20% split. So 80% of my weight is on the front leg. I'm just using the back leg to touch and control, so I can push off effectively off the front leg. So hopefully that was informative in terms of the description of the exercises and the rationale behind why we might use those as interventions. If you want to check out more on this topic, then check out our blog post on permaperformance.com. The link is in the bio below, and let us know how you get on with some of these exercises. Also guys, don't forget to check out the Cycle Exchange website for premium used bikes without the stress.